Thank you so much, Connie. Well, remember the Sabbath. Seems like an odd thing to say on a communion Sabbath, doesn't it? But not really. Good morning and happy Sabbath. This Sabbath's indeed a high Sabbath for us because we are celebrating communion today. We are remembering the last Passover meal that Jesus spent with his disciples. The examples they gave him, he showed them by washing their feet that he came to serve, that he should show our love for one another by serving others. Then during the Passover meal, he again told them what was about to happen and gave them a way to always remember the sacrifice he came to this earth to make, to pay the price for sin for us, to reunite mankind with God, and to make it possible for us to live eternally with him. When I've spoken here or at Somerset Lodge on a communion Sabbath, I've usually talked about some part of a normal communion service, maybe the foot washing service or just the emblems of the service itself. But by the title of today's sermon, I'm going to talk about the Sabbath. So what would you say is the beginning of Sabbath? I'm sure most of you, and me too, would say Genesis 2, 1 through 3. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day God finished his work that he had done. He rested on the seventh day from all his work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all his work he had done in creation. So in the beginning, God gave us an example. Certainly God didn't need to rest, but it was a beginning. He blessed the day and made it holy, knowing that it would become a blessing to us. Sabbath would become a special holy day to spend with him, who is holy. Now we come to the second book in the Bible, and the Lord is giving his people the 10 commandments. They've been observing the Sabbath. He writes it in stone. Exodus 20, 8 through 11. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not work, or your son or your daughter, your male servant, or your livestock, or the sojourner who is within your gates. For the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that was in them, and rested on the day. Therefore, the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Us to remember the Sabbath day, and tells us why, referring us back again to the creation and the example he set, resting from all labor and directing our thoughts and actions to worshiping our God. The seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. In other words, direct our worship to our Creator God. Now let's move on a little farther to John 1, verses 1 through 5. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things that were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Those 5 verses really don't leave any doubt as to who's being referred to here. The light of the world, our Savior, Jesus Christ. The Lord of the Sabbath, our Creator God. But now you're wondering where I'm going with all my rambling. I want to talk about today. I've been a Sabbath-keeping Adventist for not that long a time. But this is the first time in my memory, or in my experience, that communion fell on the same day as the Sabbath before the resurrection day. Sunday, the day of the resurrection. Not much is said about that Sabbath, what happened before Christ was to rise. Some call it the silent Sabbath. Something that is said in the Bible is that on that day they rested, as was their custom. Let's go back to that Sabbath day. Days ago, Jesus gave his disciples what we now call the communion service that we're celebrating here today. Telling to do this in remembrance of me. I don't know that they really understood what that meant yet. The day before the Sabbath was preparation day. And how could they have been prepared for that? Jesus, their Messiah, had been taken, accused, convicted, sentenced to death, brutally tortured, crucified, and now he lay in a tomb. At first they'd run in fear to the upper room to hide from the authorities and imagining that they might be next. The disciples were not the only ones in fear. It was Sabbath. And many were coming to Jerusalem looking for the healer Jesus. The chief priests remembered Jesus had said that he would be raised on the 3rd day. So they broke their own Sabbath. They went to Pilate. They asked him to secure the tomb. Their treachery would be revealed if he came back to life, and they would be they would be responsible for the murder of the long-awaited Messiah. The disciples were confused, and they were sure Jesus was the Messiah, but why had he died? They were sure he was going to save Israel, but he died. What just happened? Was all hope lost? Where was God? If they had been able to understand all of what Jesus had told them, they would have known the resurrection was coming. But they didn't have the Bible like we did. They didn't know the resurrection was coming. The disciples did set us an example that Sabbath day. They came together as fellow believers, supported one another, prayed together, and most importantly, they waited on the Lord, knowing by faith that Jesus was the solution. And as they mourned, maybe they remembered his words. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. And boy, comforted. The next day, he rose just as he said he would. 'Cause 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 he said he would. He completed the work. He completed everything that he had come to do. On the Sabbath day, Jesus was just where he needed to be. His final words before he died were, "It is finished." The same as when he had finished creating the world and all that was in it. He was resting. He had made a way. He had assured the creation of the kingdom that would never end. He is worthy. He is worthy of all our praise and worship on this Sabbath day because of that day. Well, today we celebrate the Sabbath. A Sabbath, and we celebrate communion, an example that was given to us so that we could remember him. Today, we in the Adventist Church have an open communion. We participate together and wash each other's feet before taking. So today I'm going to release us all to do